Namaskaram. Hello and welcome, hardworking aspirants. So, from Harappa to Mohenjo-Daro, and from the dancing girl to the priest king, all of it is very important for your UPSC CSE prelims examinations because it has all been asked again and again, and we are going to see that in previous year questions. Indus Valley Civilization as a topic is a very high yielding topic for your examinations, and also we think that there might be few questions from it. So without wasting any time, let's get started in this series. Also guys, if you're preparing for UPSC, this is the batch for you, for the one-on-one mentorship batch. I'll not say a lot about it, only every topper has a mentor and you should too. This is what you should think about your life, your career, that the decision you have to make. And let's take the decision of starting the class with the introduction and chronology of Indus Valley Civilization. Indus Valley Civilization is also known as Harappan Civilization. Why? Because Harappa was the first site that was excavated, and it stands as one of the world's earliest urban civilization. Please understand the fact that it was urban, not rural civilization, and the most geographically extensive Bronze Age culture. Now, it flourished along the Indus River system that is now in Pakistan, northwestern India, and parts of Afghanistan. And somewhere around, you can say that 3300 before Common Era to 1300 before Common Era was the time span. Now, if you see the chronological phase, we have divided into four different sections. That is the pre-Harappan or the early farming phase. Then you have the early Harappan phase. Then comes the mature Harappan phase. This is the time which we see a lot. And then the late Harappan phase. There we will see the decline also. Now, the pre-Harappan or the early farming phase, where you can see its evidences are in Mehergarh in Balochistan, and where we have the evidence of early agriculture, animal domestication, and settled communities. Along with that, if you see Mehergarh, newly dated through radiological analysis using tooth enamel samples, places the beginning of farming around 5200 before Common Era. That is something in South Asia's oldest known farming settlement. So please also remember that about Mehergarh. Then comes the early Harappan phase. If you talk about the early Harappan phase, you see that the cultural traits and the characteristics of the later mature phase begin to appear, including the Ravi phase, Hakra ware, and the court Dijan culture, which showed stylistic and technological patterns. Not only that, if you see the mature Harappan phase, that's from 2600 to 1900 before Common Era, you will see that largely metropolitan centers like Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro reached their zenith, along with hundreds of towns. Okay, and we will also see that the late Harappan phase, this period marked a gradual but sustained decline of urban centers. Archaeological evidences show contraction of settlements, shift towards regional variation, and eventual abandonment of major cities. Now, if you talk about the geographical extent and the important sites, so that is what on the extreme west, the site that we have is the Sukta Jendor, and that's in Balochistan, Pakistan today. In the extreme east, we have Alamgirpur, that's in Uttar Pradesh, India. Extreme north, we have Manda, that's in Jammu. And the extreme south, we have Daimabad, that's in Maharashtra, India. You should know this because maybe asked in the examinations. Also remember that the Bronze Age civilization contemporary was with the Mesopotamian and the Egypt civilization. Now the civilization extends through multiple ecological zones, coastal plains, river, valleys, desert zones, and foothills. Over 1022 sites have been discovered, 406 in Pakistan, 616 in India, with some in Afghanistan, and though only 97 have been firmly excavated. Now, if you talk about the Harappan settlements, the village hamlets less than 1 hectare to maximum 10 hectares, town 10 to 50 hectares, and metropolitan cities over 50 hectares that are there. The 5 metropolitan centers were Mohenjo-Daro, Harappa, Dholavira. We also have Ganveriwala and also the Rakhigadi that are there. Now, if you see the major archaeological sites and their significances, this is something that you should take down from here because it is most of the times asked. So see, like for example, Harappa, where was the location? This you should know. That's in present Pakistan. the river that was there, that is Ravi River. And if you see the key features, first discovered site, that's why we also say the Indus Valley Civilization as the Harappan civilization. There was granaries, there were barracks, wheat grains. Also, the Earth Mother seal was found from Harappa. And so on and so forth. In that very way, you should know about Mohenjo-Daro, Dholavira, Lothal, Kalibangan, Rakhigarhi, Banavali, Chanudaro, and Surkotada. Why we are only emphasizing on this? Because there are high chances that if a question gets asked, it will get asked from one of these sites. So that is why this slide becomes very important and you should know about it. Then comes the Harappa, Punjab, Pakistan and Ravi River, the first Harappan site that was discovered. By whom? It was by Dayaram Sahani in 1921, located in the Montgomery district. Now it is in Sahiwal. The site is situated very close to Ravi River, closer than any other major Harappan settlement, and Harappa is famous for its granaries with raised platforms. Also the single room barracks, possibly for workers, and the largest quantities of wheat grains found across all Indus Valley Civilization sites. So this is something that you should know about Harappa. Then let's see about Mohenjo-Daro, that's in Sindh, Pakistan, discovered by Rakhal Das Bandopadhyay, also known as R.D. Banerjee, please remember, in the year 1922. Mohenjo-Daro means what? It means the Mount of the Dead. Again, important fact that you should see, and it is the largest Harappan city. This is also something that you should remember. The site houses the famous Great Bath, must have seen in the pics. This is the famous Great Bath that you can see here. Okay, and you should know about the dimensions of it. You should know that there were the change rooms at the top of it, and if there is anything else related to it, that should be pointed down in your notes. Mohenjo-Daro produced approximately 60% of the unicorn seals. Now, this is very important. This was found across the civilization, and one of the most prominent seals that have been found. And the famous dancing girl bronze sculpture is also something that is found there. And the Pasupati seal, as well as the it is believed to be the proto Shiva or the Rudra or Shiva himself. So this is something that you should know about. I'll give you also the names of the priest king that has been found here, and also bull, okay, bronze bull that was also there. Now next comes the Dholavira, a unique site located in arid region with no permanent river, raising question about water management. This is very important. That's why we see that Dholavira has been asked before and can be asked again. So archaeological evidences reveal that a large inscription with 10 prominent Harappan script signs, 3 stages of fortification, and an advanced water management system with reservoirs and structures indicating sophisticated engineering despite the harsh environment. This is something that you should know about it. Then comes Lothal, famous for its dockyard and maritime connection. Lothal demonstrates extensive evidence of seagoing trade. The site contains a Persian Gulf type seal indicating a direct contact with Gulf region, as well as Lothal was a major bead making center, particularly for carnelian and the steatite beads. Okay. Also, we see that we have the evidence which includes the fire altars, a cemetery with 114 burials showing different burial practices, and numerous pottery types indicating external trade connections. Next, the Kalibangan, the site provides the earliest global archaeological evidence of plot field with a grid pattern demonstrating advanced agriculture knowledge. The fields show evidence of mixed cropping, that is mustard and gram together. Now, Kalibangan features two separate mounds, the citadel, that is the western and the smaller one, and the lower city, that is the eastern and more extensive. Archaeological finds include fire altars, terracotta figurine, and a terracotta replica of a plough. Now, this is very important. This can be again asked, offering direct evidence of agriculture technology. Then let's see about the Rakhigarhi. That's in Haryana. Today, the site was the largest concentration of Harappan sites in a single state. So, dense population. That is something you can see here. And Rakhigarhi itself is a major settlement covering over 80 hectares with extensive remain, providing crucial date on the civilization development. And the Banavali also there in Haryana, discovered by RS West in 1973. This site represents a later phase of the civilization. Notable findings, if you see here, terracotta replica of plough and circular structures providing evidence of agriculture practice. Then comes Chanudaro, that's in Sindh, Pakistan, an important center known for its specialized bead making workshop, particularly for carnelian. The site reveals the development of craft specialization, and also Chanudaro notably lacks defensive wall contrasting with major cities. So there was no wall around Chanudaro, but the other cities did had, the other sites did had it. The Surkotada coastal settlement providing evidence of maritime trade. Controversial finds at this site includes remains that some scholars interpret as evidence of horse presence. Now, this is something that has been, been a mystery, that where horse there at the time of Indus Valley Civilization. Normally, we say a no to it, but then Surkotada is the place where we have this confusion. Now there was the very famous town planning and the architecture. So what was the famous? The grid system and the systematic layout. What is this grid system? You see, whenever you have the streets cutting each other at 90 degree, whenever the streets will cut each other at 90 degree, that will be known as a grid system. So that grid pattern was there. That is something that we see. Also, the streets are uniformly oriented and intersect at 90-degree angle. Also, this demonstrates centralized planning and coordinated at sophisticated levels, suggesting an extremely evolved bureaucratic system was there at that time. Now, you see the sites were divided into two parts. One was the citadel or the upper platform. Okay, the upper land. Okay, there what we have there, we have the public building, market areas, houses of rulers, workshop, all this thing is there. And then there is the lower area where you have the houses of the common people, and you also have the markets over there. We have a very good drainage system. We have the city walls that we have seen, and we also see that the sanitation was properly followed there. Now the citadel and the lower town, this is what we are seeing. So this is what you can see. This is the upper town or the citadel. Okay, and this is the lower town where the people used to live. Okay, located on raised mounds, the citadel contained administrative buildings, public structures, and likely residential quarter for the ruling elite. Area was often fortified with walls and had controlled access points. The citadel housed public buildings of significance, including the Great Bath of Mohenjo-Daro and granaries at Harappa. Now, lower city has what it had contained the residential quarters and commercial establishment of common people. Also, despite the lower status designation, housing in the lower city was systematically planned according to the grid pattern. It was not haphazardly arranged. So, this is what you should know about the town planning. Also, the drainage and the sanitation, if you see, the Harappan developed an advanced underground drainage system. Just for your knowledge, recently there was a flood in Pakistan. The full Pakistan was flooded for almost 10 plus days, but the flood in these areas of Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro, that got cleared in just one day within 24 hours. So that still speaks for the drainage system that they have built at that time. Okay, covered drains ran beneath the streets, collecting wastewater from houses. Also, primary and secondary drainage networks connected individual household to main street. Drains were constructed with brick or stone and featured junctions with inspection points. Also, please remember baked bricks were used. At that time, most of the civilization was not using the baked bricks. Waterproofing was achieved using bitumen and gypsum mortar, and each house typically featured proper ventilation in bathrooms with water outlets leading directly to the underground drains. Now, this is something that you can say was the advanced engineering of that time. What about the housing feature? So there was the standardized brick dimension, which you should note down, maybe asked in the examination. So approximately 38 into 19 into 9 to 10 centimeter. A ratio of 4 is to 2 is to 1 was used, and most houses were one room structure with variations in size based on social status. Also, there were multi-story buildings, we will see, with the floors generally made of hard packed earth or brick. The roofing constructed with wooden beams, and the entrance is significantly no house had a main entrance directly facing the main street. Now this is something that they must have done for the privacy and security, so please note down this point as well. Courtyards, most houses featured internal courtyard providing light ventilation, and bathrooms and wells, many houses contain private bathrooms. Okay, this is something that we are going to see. The public building and structures, if you see, the Great Bath Mohenjo-Daro, the most famous public structure. The sophisticated bathing measures 11.8 into 7 into 2.43 meter. And staircases at both ends that you can see here, these are the staircases. Okay, a central water supply will adjacent to the bath, and the changing room for bathers. So these are the changing rooms that you can see, surrounding by the porticos, and waterproofing achieved through clay, brick, bitumen, and gypsum mortar. Historians debate whether this served as a ritual bathing pool related to the religious practice, given the evidence of ritualistic cleansing importance in the civilization. Now, there was also the granaries, the large rectangular structure with raised platforms as at Harappa, used for grain storage and preservation. The raised foundation prevented moisture infiltration and rodent access, and some scholars suggest these were communal storage facilities for taxation or redistribution systems. So, this is the granary that you can see here. And please remember, they always had a raised foundation. Why they did had it? Because if there is flood, or to save yourself from the rodents, or also to prevent moisture infiltration. Now, the Great Dockyard at Lothal, an artificial basin connected to water sources, facilitating maritime trade and loading unloading of goods. So this is also something that you should know about. If you see about the weights and measures of Indus Valley Civilization, so the weight units primarily stone, 5 gram, 10 gram, 20 gram. So following a binary ratio system was there. Material diversity, weights made from stone, terracotta, copper, and other materials. Manufacturing precision, weights were carefully calibrated and standardized, and also this uniformity across vast geographic regions suggests centralized authority enforcing its standardization. So this is something that you should know about. The political, social, and economic life, how it was. So if you see, some scholars including Stuart Pigot have proposed that the civilization was theocratic in nature, wherein political and religious authority were unified, with the chief priest ruling as both political and religious leader. This interpretation also draws parallel with the contemporary Egyptian and Mesopotamian structure. This is something that you should know. The uniformity of brick sizes, weights, and measures, city planning, and drainage system across the entire vast civilization proposes centralized regulation and enforcement of standards. We also see that Mortimer Wheeler famously described the Harappan system as an extremely evolved bureaucratic machine, and noted that far behind so vast a uniformity must lie an administrative and economic discipline, however exercised of a formidable kind. So, who said this? It was said by Wheeler. Likely decentralized and regional authority. Recent scholarship suggests a mere nuanced, possibly decentralized political system with regional authorities administering different areas while adhering to standardized protocols. Evidence does not indicate a single centralized capital or monumental royal architecture. Now, absence of monumental architecture, this is also something that we see. Notably, the Harappans did not construct temple, palaces, or tombs or the scale seen in Egypt or Mesopotamia. We were different from them. This absence of monumental religious architecture distinguishes the Harappan civilization, suggests a less hierarchical, more egalitarian social structure. Because if we have this tombs or the palaces, it shows that there must have been a monarchy. Okay, what about the social structure? So there were the elites and the political leaders. The upper econ controlled trade, resources, and governance. They resided in larger, more elaborate houses, and evidences suggest that they participated in ritualistic practices as well. There were the artisans and the craftspeople. A substantial middle class of specialized artisans produced goods, including bead makers, the metal workers, and the stone carvers. Evidences also suggest craftspeople maintain workshop at specialized centers. We also see the laborers and the servants, worker engaged in construction, agriculture, and menial tasks. Some evidence suggests single room barracks may have housed organized labor forces. Also, when you talk about the evidence of gender roles, so women figurines, that is the terracotta mother goddess, are numerous, suggesting women held religious or spiritual significance. There was the craft production as well, appears gender differentiated, with terracotta wools and spindles indicating women's involvement in textile production. And also ornaments and jewelry were worn by both genders, though patterns suggest social differentiation. So this is the terracotta of the mother goddess that we are talking about. Now the dress and the ornaments, if you see how it was, so the upper garments possibly draped cloth or shawl, so with seals showing figures with a diagonal cloth. The lower garments possibly worn by both men and women. Jewelry, extensive use of bangles, necklaces, earrings. So these were used carnelian, steatite, sail, copper, terracotta. Hairstyles, if you see, seals show evidence of carefully styled hairs, and the body decoration, possibly use of cosmetic, and the body painting was there. If we talk about the food and the diet, wheat mostly abundant, barley, rice particularly in southern and eastern regions, peas and pulses including gram and lentils, and mustard and sesame for oil. Domesticated animals, cattle like hump zebu type, highly valued, buffalo, water buffalo used for plowing and transport, sheep and goat for wool and meat, pigs, though possibly avoided by some communities, and domesticated fowl, that is the chickens and the birds, that was there. What about the agriculture and the irrigation? So Harappan civilization economy was fundamentally based on sophisticated agriculture. We have the canals, we have the wells, we have the reservoirs, bunds and furrows, and also the seasonal indentation management, that was there. What about the agriculture practices? So the crop rotation was done there, that we can see. Also the mixed cropping was used. Plot technology, where we have seen the evidence from Banavali terracotta model, and also harvesting and processing. So sickles, the saddle quans for grain processing, all of this was used in the agriculture practices. What about the trade? So there was internal trade, that we have seen exchanges of raw material between regions, okay, as standardized weights and measures. So all that was there. There was external trade also, like with Mesopotamia or the modern day Iraq. The most significant external contact, Harappan seals and sealings discovered at Mesopotamian sites, Tel Umma, Ur, Uruk, and Lagas. And the Oman, also we have the evidence, includes typically Harappan pottery found at Ras Al Zains and other Omani sites. Persian Gulf, Dilmun and Bahrain, Persian Gulf type steel discovered at Harappan sites. And Central Asia, that is the Bactria, trade in metals and materials facilitated through overland routes. What about the exports from Harappa? What was exported? Semi-precious stones were exported, the metals, the agricultural products, the handicrafted goods, as well as the processed items like the edged or inlaid beads or the textiles were exported from Harappa. What about the crafts and metallurgy? So the bead making, a highly developed craft with specialized centers at Chanodaro, Lothal, and elsewhere was there. Sourcing and cutting of carnelian, steatite, agate, all this thing was done. The pottery, that was sophisticated pottery production with wheels, thrown ceramics, painted design with geometric pattern. This is something that we see. And also the bronze metallurgy, evidence of advanced bronze casting like lost wax casting technique used for sculptures like dancing girl. Bronze tools and bronze vessels were also used. This dancing girl was asked in the year 2025. Very simple question: which metal was used? So bronze was the right answer to this. What about the region and culture? So religious beliefs and practices. Harappan civilization present a fascinating religious paradox. While it was fundamentally secular in political and social organization, it nevertheless maintained ritualistic and spiritual practices. If we talk about the religious elements, Proto Shiva or the Pasupati seal, the most famous religious artifact, that seal from Mohenjo-Daro, depicts a seated male figure in Padmasana. This here you can see a seated male figure in Padmasana, that is in the lotus position with three faces. Three mukha are there. Look at this side, this side, this side. Wearing a distinctive horned headdress. This is the headdress. Okay, this you can see. Designed with resembling a trident or the trishul. So the figure is surrounded by four animals: buffalo, tiger, rhino, and elephant below, and additional animals, possibly goats or antelope on the other side. And the archaeologist John Marshall identified this as Proto-Shiva, linked it to later Hindu deity Shiva. However, this interpretation remains contested by scholars. I think so many of you cannot see it because I am there. That is why now you can see it. Okay. Now I hope so that you are able to see it. Okay. Can you? Okay, just for you, I did it. Okay. Let's get going. And what about the mother goddess and the earth mother? So the terracotta figurine depicting nude or semi-clothed female figure with elaborate headdress and ornaments have been recovered. These are commonly interpreted as representing a fertility deity or earth mother goddess, comparable to agriculture fertility cults worldwide. The widespread distribution suggests a widespread non-centralized cult rather than organized temple-based worship. Some figurines depicts women with plants or serpents. Also, the absence of temples is something that is notable. No monumental temples have been definitely identified in Harappan archaeology. and sharply with contemporary Mesopotamian jaggeds. This suggests religion was non-institutional and perhaps integrated into domestic or civic spaces. This is what you should note down. What about the art, the seal, and the sculptures? Again, this becomes very important because we have seen different types of seals have been discovered in Harappa, and these seals were used for different purposes, and there can be questions asked from this. Okay, so the primarily square-shaped seals were found with some rectangular, circular, triangular, and cylindrical forms. What material was used? Teartite normally because it was a soft stone chosen for ease of carving. Some seals crafted from terracotta, fines, copper, bronze, silver, and gold also. Size typically 1.5 to 2.5 inches. Animal motifs like unicorn, buffalo, rhino, tiger, elephant, all this was there. Undeciphered Harappan script inscription is also there at the top, written in Bostrophedan style, that is alternating left to right and right to left. Feeding troughs containers depicted for animals' food, possibly indicating merchant ownership or guild affiliation, and central perforation or some seal suggesting user as ornamental pendants or amulets. Also, please remember this Bostrophedan style can be asked in the examination, so please emphasize on this. And also this feeding troughs. If you can see this seal here, there is this feeding trough here. Okay, that was to feed the animal. Now, so these sculptures have been asked in the examination. This I have said you that she was asked in the examination. So let's see, dancing girl, the most elaborated bronze sculpture approximately created using logs to extracting nude young women in naturalistic dynamic pose. Stylized ornament, necklace, armbands, okay, autonomically exaggerate features, confident posture suggesting cultural acceptance and the cultural significance, high artistry. Please also make notes for this priest king that is there, so can be asked in the examinations. A steatite sculpture approximately 7.5 centimeter tall, a bearded male with carefully styled facial hair. Pattern robe or clothing, we can also see diadem or crown, flat band on forehead. There you can see it. Okay, dignified serene expression and interpretation as either as priest king or divine ruler figure. What about the pottery? Wide variety of vessels, shapes of storage, painted designs were there, geometric patterns, black slipped wares were also used, particularly those to trade. And the terracotta objects like the spindle bows, fishing hooks, sling balls, miniature vessels, and toy animated carts were also found as the part of terracotta objects. What about the Indus script? Indus script has yet not been deciphered, undeciphered to date, despite the numerous scholars' attempt to Indus script remains completely undeciphered. There are some were around 2000 plus in described seals. Signs count approximately 400 to 900 distinct signs, suggesting a logo syllabic writing system. Direction Bustrophedan style, that is alternating left to right and right to left, like plowing field, right to left primarily, and we'll see short inscriptions, typically 4 to 8 signs per seal, and material inscribed on seals were occasionally on public structures. Famous Dholavira inscription with 10 last signs. What about the decline of Harappan civilization? How did it decline? Now there is again a debate on this. Few people say that it was climatic and environmental degradation. Few say tectonic and hydrological disturbances were there. Few say deforestation and ecological imbalance was the reason. Disruption of trade networks, few say. And there are a large majority who say that the Aryan invasion or the migration was the reason for this. But we see that some of the sites declined immediately and some of the sites slowly and gradually declined. So that is something we see. Let's see this question that was asked in the year 2017. So we have in the context of ancient India, which of the following is not a Harappan site? Sokha Gaura, Koddizi, Bhiribana, and Kalibangan. So what is the correct answer to it? Well, the correct answer to it is one only, and you can pause the video and see the explanation. Again, the next question, if you are viewing this whenever live, try to answer it in the comments so that you understand whether you are able to give the right answers or not. Consider the following statements regarding Indus Valley Civilization. So you have this three statement and then you have to say about the answer, and the right answer is 1 and 2 only. Again, you can pause the video and see it. And guys, we are also running RRB batch, Rabbit Revision batch for the prelims 2026. So you can join that too. And also if you have any doubt regarding your preparation, what to read, what not to read, what notes to make, what not to make, which book is better. So for that, you can join our mentorship batch, which we are starting very early. So without any wasting any time, you can join it. Why you should join is because of a lot of reasons. But what I always believe is every topper should have a mentor, and you should too. We'll meet again in the next class with a very high link topic. Till then, keep working hard because today or tomorrow you will be successful. Namaskar.